our guest tonight is Dr. Tijani Bosun, the Honorable Minister of Communications, Innovation and Digital Economy. Dr. Tijani first started off studying for a diploma in computer science before going on to study economics and graduated with a bachelor's degree. He later obtained an MSc in Information Systems and Management from Warwick Business School in United Kingdom. And in 2023, he earned a PhD in Innovation and Economic Development from the School of Business, University of Leicester. Dr. Tijani has also been part of the Innovation for Economic Development Executive Program at Harvard Kennedy School in 2013, as well as a fellow at Draper Hill's Center for Democracy in 2014. Before CC Hub, Tijani also worked with the International Trade Center, Geneva, Switzerland, as a fellow researching on trade development with particular emphasis on enterprise management development. Honorable Minister, good evening to you. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you, Olajumoke. Good evening.
Right. So before we get neck deep into the issues on the table for tonight, tell me, how has it been for you as an entrepreneur working in government, especially as a minister?
Well, I think it's been extremely fulfilling, if I can use that terminology. I typically don't describe myself as an entrepreneur. I like to describe myself as a builder. And I think as a builder, being in government, particularly under the leadership of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, is a fantastic opportunity to help build the nation that we all would like to see in Nigeria. Working for government gives you the opportunity to help build at scale for our people, especially in a country like Nigeria, with a lot of opportunities. I think most of our challenges present themselves as challenges, but they are indeed opportunities for us to build a nation that is resilient and can contribute to the development of the world as large. So I have to say I'm having a fantastic time. I would like to believe that it's also just because the president is extremely pro-business, is a man who cares deeply about building for our nation. So that may also be why I'm lucky to be part of government at this time.
Get back, let me go as far back as October, when you released a 31-page blueprint titled Accelerating Our Collective Prosperity Through Technical Efficiency, revolving around 5 pillars. You talk about knowledge, policy, infrastructure, innovation, and trade. And in your words, these 5 pillars will spur rapid development. Where are we on each of these pillars?
Yes, I think the 5 pillars were largely based and they drew inspiration from the agenda that the president set out at the beginning of this administration. If you follow the development within the government since inception, just about, I think, going to nine months ago now, there were 8 presidential priorities that was put out there. And these priorities formed the basis for all the activities that you're seeing within the government today. And they were very clear on a number of things around creating economic opportunities and shared prosperity, ending poverty, harnessing human resources, finding lasting solutions to our security challenges, but also include things around rule of law as well. So when I was appointed in October, I think the focus was largely on understanding how the communications and digital economy sector can contribute to those presidential priorities. So we carefully spoke to a significant number of stakeholders within the private sector, within this sector, but we also looked at what's been done and accomplished largely within the communication space in Nigeria over the years. As many people will know, Nigeria is probably one of the highest grossing when it comes to the communication sector on the African continent. A lot of the technology players within our sector are the largest on the continent. When you look at the telecommunications space, for instance, the likes of Glo, MTN, Airtel are some of the largest telecommunications companies in Africa, and most of those companies operate solely or partly from Nigeria. You can also see that when you look at the technology startup space, Nigeria is home to a significant number of the unicorns. These are businesses that are worth over $1 billion. Most of them founded by Nigerians out of Nigeria, now operating across multiple markets. When you look at the contribution of the sector is doing anywhere between 15 to 18% to our GDP. So this is a sector that has a lot to say in terms of how we raise the level of productivity in our economy. And for those who follow digital technologies, you understand that the role of digital technologies in really raising productivity has been well documented. For the economists that may be listening to me, they can attest to how total factor productivity, which is the part of production function that is not dependent on labor and capital and largely dependent on technological innovation, account for the progress in society. So we try to look at how, as a sector, we can deploy technology to contribute to the president's agenda. And of course, the president was quite clear as well. He mentioned the need for us to create 2 million jobs. He talked about the need for us to feed ourselves as a nation by strengthening our agricultural sector. And we looked at all of those things and we realized that there are 5 key things that we need to prioritize, or 5 key pillars. And those pillars largely focus on knowledge, and knowledge which relates to the workforce that we need to drive technology in Nigeria, but also on the continent. But at the same time, we looked at the opportunity that exists in technology globally and realized that there's a shortage in the workforce for technology talent. So we decided Nigeria, because we're blessed with a very youthful population, that we could also become a net exporter of talent. So on that knowledge pillar, we've prioritized training 3 million technical talent out of Nigeria. We are funding significant research projects in areas such as artificial intelligence, fourth industrial revolution technologies, including things like blockchain, including IoT, including additive manufacturing and all of that. So that's the first pillar. The second pillar is what we refer to as the policy, which is saying we have to reimagine our technology policy as not just a policy to regulate, but also policies that can help enable innovation, but also open critical sectors or aspects of our economy for innovation. The third pillar is what we refer to as infrastructure, understanding that technology in itself cannot thrive if you don't have the deep infrastructure backbone that you require to make this happen. Whether we're talking about putting our satellite to very effective use, we're the only country with its own satellite in the West African region, or perhaps deepening our fiber optic network, which we have to, based on the report that has been produced by the Broadband Committee, we have to lay 120,000 kilometers fiber optic cable across Nigeria. We've done about 35,000 to 40,000. So this government is now prioritizing that as well. But we're also looking beyond that when we talk about infrastructure to saying, how do we transform government services using technology, and what sort of infrastructure do we need to be able to make that happen? That's also part of what we're working on as well. Things around NIPOS, reimagining our NIPOS and ensuring that it can provide better opportunities and services to our communities. All that you'll find under infrastructure. And the fourth pillar is what we've referred to as innovation, entrepreneurship, and capital. Understanding that if we do the first one, which is knowledge very, very well, and we have a pool of talent, if we have the right policies in place and our infrastructure is deepened, we still need entrepreneurs and innovators to help us make good use of all that investment. Otherwise, we're going to be wasting our resources. And that's the fourth one. And if we can support our local investors to build technology solutions, either by improving the level of patient capital that is available in the country, we will start to see more innovative solutions. And by doing so, not only are we going to be able to use these solutions locally, and we can also start to export them as well. And that's the fifth pillar, which is trade. We want Nigeria to become a major exporter of technology solutions. We've already started doing this, but we believe we can do much more, at least starting with the rest of Africa under the Single Market Agreement, which is AFCFTA.
So we'll come back to those pillars because they will basically form the basis of this conversation for tonight. Some hours ago, you were quoted, or you were reported in the news of issuing a warning against the use of unlicensed radio frequency spectrum. You described it as illegal and liable for prosecution. I want you to shed more light on that.
Can you take the question again? It wasn't quite clear. I struggled a bit here.
About some hours ago, you were reported in the news of issuing a warning against the use of unlicensed radio frequency spectrum, describing it as illegal and liable for prosecution. So I want you to throw more light on that.
I think on a positive note, what we would like to see as a government is actually creative application of our infrastructure and resources as well. So there's a segment of the spectrum that you may refer to as the IMT, which is largely put in place for non-commercial uses. And we found that for you, typically, to be able to put this sort of spectrum into use, you have to apply for them. Even though the application process is quite straightforward and simple, the cost of using them is also quite insignificant as well, because the goal is to encourage the application of the use of the spectrum for non-commercial usage. But we've also noticed that quite a number of organizations engage in the use of this form of spectrum without the right licenses, maybe for radio communications purposes, but for the safety of our people, for the safety of our society, it is important that government is able to track the users of this. And we have the resources to track. So, periodically the team from the ministry will go out to different key locations, jamming the necessary on lawful usage that we see. And they've been doing fantastic work in also improving on the technology to help us track those who may be engaging in the usage of this spectrum, just to ensure that we can track everyone that is using them and they're being used for the right purposes.
Right. So, for proper insight into what exactly you're doing with these pillars, let's take them one after the other. Tell us a bit about the 3 million technical talents. How many people have so far benefited from the program, and what is its spread across the country?
I think the 3 million technical talent program, like I mentioned earlier, is drawing inspiration from the mandate from the president that we create 2 million jobs on the continent. And we think the technology sector can contribute to that significantly. So immediately when we were appointed, we set out to create this program to train 3 million technical talents. And we've had fantastic response from across the country. In under 2 months of launching the program, we've had about 1.7 million applications. But we had to come up with an implementation strategy that will ensure that the focus is not just on training, but the focus is on ensuring that these people acquire the right skill set and they're able to find gainful employment based on that skill set as well. So our implementation strategy has been built around what we call the 1 to 10 to 100. And that approach means that we want to start with a 1% of our target, which is something you call the prototype, and see how we can quickly train 30,000 of that 3 million target that we had. And we started that in November last year. The 30,000 folks are now, I think they're ending their training about this week into next week. We've also now released and moved to the second phase, which is the 10%. So we've released 270,000 people that have been selected to be part of what we call the pilot phase, which is the second phase. And those 270,000 people are across all the states in Nigeria, and a lot of them are learning skill sets that are in high demand. Again, bear in mind that we've carefully selected these skill sets, right? They were based on a report that came out of a research that has been done to identify the talent gap, which is the gap that exists between what industry is looking for and what the supply side of talent is producing, so the academic institution. So we identified about 12 key thematic areas that this training is being deployed in, which includes things like software development that ranges from back-end and front-end, includes product development and design, includes product management as well, cybersecurity, cloud computing, artificial intelligence and machine learning, and a host of others as well. And what we've seen is really exciting. It's heartwarming to see that young Nigerians are extremely passionate about developing their skill set, about being part of the global economy as well. As we know, the technology ecosystem is now global in nature. Young people from Nigeria are now getting opportunity to work from companies remotely that are based everywhere in the world. And that's the inspiration for this. And you can see that excitement coming through in those that have been part of this program. Since about 2 weeks ago, we've now started the process of interviewing. I think we identify over 500 companies that are looking to take on some of these trainees from across the country. And quite a number of the trainees are now going through interviews with most of these companies. And we expect that we'll start to see announcements of job placement for quite a number of them. For a lot of them, it's going to be internship to start with so that they can get the opportunity to truly put the skills that they've acquired to use in a real business setting as well. And we hope as we continue to do this, we're also going to be exploring opportunities for them to work remotely for companies that are based abroad. We've seen examples of India and how they became a major source of talent for the technology ecosystem globally. But for Nigeria, we even have a better positioning to be able to do so.
All right, so for Nigerians who are not tech-driven, but know that, okay, Minister Bosun is in charge of this ministry and that there are programs in place, what will be the impact of this program on Nigeria's digital economy?
Well, I think the impact of the program is literally that you can't drive a successful digital economy without the workforce that is required. The prerequisite for technology development is talent, right? And once we're able to build this workforce, you start to see the opportunity on one hand for both local and foreign companies to be able to access the talent they require. But on the other hand, you start to also see some of these fellows and trainees actually becoming builders of technology solutions as well. I encourage most people to check on social media and just search for 3MTT. And you already can see a lot of the 3MTT fellows showcasing the products that they are building, which is extremely exciting. Not all of them will become employees. We believe that a significant portion of them will actually become creators of solutions within the technology space. We are already talking to a number of organizations like Altbank, also the likes of CCOP, which I used to run, that are interested in putting resources behind some of these fellows for them to be able to build technology solutions. And they're looking to back them so that these solutions can then turn into a business that they can also become employers of labor, but also contribute to our economy as well.
All right, great. Now let's talk about broadband infrastructure. What is the Broadband Alliance and what is it meant to achieve?
I think the goal of the Alliance is recognizing that, we've seen significant gains from investment in telecommunications infrastructure in Nigeria since the full liberalization of the sector during the late 90s, right? And we can see that benefit across all the key parts of our economy. But we understand that there's still quite a lot that we need to do. As much as a lot of people now have access to internet in Nigeria, the quality sometimes can still be a challenge, which is a function of the state of the infrastructure. There's still much more we need to do in there. There's still also those who are underserved and perhaps unserved as well. People who live in rural communities or faraway places from major cities may not have the best quality access to telecommunication services. So our goal as a government, and the president is also quite clear about this, that we must provide the opportunity for us to continue to attract the right investment and ensure that not only government is looking to support the development of telecommunications infrastructure, that we're also getting private investors to invest in telecommunications infrastructure in Nigeria. Because when we do so, then we get the opportunity not only to connect our people, we can also better secure our nation as well, because a major part of carrying out security services is also telecommunications infrastructure as well. It gives us the opportunity to be able to track every corner of the country, which is something that, of course, the president has made a mandate that we must do and do quickly. So the Broadband Alliance is looking to pull companies together alongside government, of course, including agencies like NIGECOMSAT, our satellite company, and the Galaxy Backbone, which is a company that is responsible for digital infrastructure for the public sector, but also a lot of private companies as well that have shown interest in being part of what we're doing, including the likes of 21st Century. MTN is continuously investing. WIOC is also on the table talking to us. How can we get many of these organizations and much more together to continue to invest in infrastructure? And we have an aggressive target, which is over the next 2 years, we want to go after achieving the 120,000 kilometers of fiber optic cable that we want to lay in Nigeria. And we understand that we can't do that alone. The only way to achieve that is when government is sitting on around the table with private companies, and we are aligning our goals and objectives, and also ensuring that the investment that we require can flow in to help us achieve this objective.
All right, so, I mean, you've just talked about this, but are there any plans afoot to expand broadband infrastructure across Nigeria?
Oh, there is. That's what I've just described to you. The goal actually is we are setting up a fund now that will focus solely on accomplishing that 120,000 kilometers of fiber optic network that we need to build across the country. About 35 to 40,000 is already being done, but the goal of that Broadband Alliance and the fund is to ensure that we can deploy capital to help us achieve that goal. In the next 2 years, we have that aggressive target of 2 years to get this done.
Right, so I'm also very interested in this project, and that's Project 774 LG Connectivity. Talk to us about that and how far you've gone with it.
I think it's also, yeah, the project, again, is inspired by the experience of the president. He was a major champion when he was the governor of Lagos in transforming public services using technology. And we have the mandate to do exactly the same at the federal level. But we've seen that clearly government is not only just at the federal level, that the closest form of government to our people are the local government secretariats. And a lot of these secretariats are at the minute unconnected. But we've identified that we can leverage our existing investment in our satellite through the NightComSat, but also the fiber network that we have with Galaxy Backbone to actually serve a lot of the secretariats, local government secretariats across Nigeria. So the project 774, the goal is to connect local government secretariats, ensure that the staff and the local government chairman, that they have access to connectivity, but most importantly, NITDA, which is the IT Development Agency under the ministry, is also putting computer labs in all of these local governments, and all these computer labs will be connected. And the goal of those computer labs is to ensure that we can deploy digital literacy programs, not only for the staff of the LGA, but also for citizens who live around the LGA. You need to bear in mind that the local government secretariats are responsible for critical services like birth and death registration, marriage registration. They're responsible for services like this. And there's quite a number of services that our people need to have access to that they can only at the minute access at the local government secretariat. And whilst at the federal government level, we are digitalizing a lot of these services, if the local government secretariats are not connected, that digitalization will not bring the benefit that we would like to see from it. And this is why we're making this investment. And of course, leveraging our existing infrastructure, but also the resources that is available through the Universal Service Provision Fund, which is under NCC, again, which is under the ministry, and I'm the chairman of as well.
All right, still on talent development, what are you doing to catch them young, especially by integrating ICT into Nigeria's secondary school curriculum? Are there plans to collaborate with the Ministry of Education on this?
The Minister of Education and I, we still had a chat a few days ago, and our conversation was exactly on the possibility of introducing coding in curriculum at all levels within Nigeria. Of course, there's a significant piece of work that we will need to carry out to get that done. But it's given me his assurance that this is something that we have a unique opportunity to do under President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's administration. But beyond that, while we go through that process, I personally understand the power of introducing young people to technology very early on, because you want them to be technology natives, like digital natives. You want them to have the creative confidence and the belief that they can become creators of technology. So what we've done is actually create a program that we call the Buildathon, which we launched in January. And in January, we had 1,500 young people from about, I think, 150 or so secondary schools in Borno, in Ogun State, and also in Imo State, participate in a one-week program where they got introduced to what we call physical computing. So physical computing is not just the software side of computing. is a program where you get the opportunity to actually learn about the hardware and how the computer itself works, so that you can be able to build on top of it. And a lot of those young people had the opportunity to not only interact with these machines, they also then ended up building solutions and competed at the end of it, and we had some of them winning in those 3 locations. Our goal is that we can repeat this program perhaps 2 or 3 times a year, where we get to introduce at every cohort, we introduce about 1,500 of them into opportunity to learn about embedded system, and we do that for the rest of our time in the next 4 years or 3+ years at the least. But we're not stopping there. We recognize that to introduce them to this program just under 1 week is not going to be sufficient. Absolutely. So we're now in the process of building a program where we're setting up code clubs in all the schools that have participated. So as soon as they get the opportunity to participate, we set up code club there, we give them the equipment, we train their teachers to be able to continue to expose them to these learning opportunities. And of course, we're tracking all of these to also see the progress that the kids are making as they get the opportunity to be part of these modern day technologies and the development as well.
That's great. We're looking forward to that. Now let's go back to Project 774 LG connectivity. What kind of support are you getting from state governors on this? What kind of commitments are you getting from them?
Well, the government, without them, we won't be able to achieve the project. So before going into any state, I think we're now covering significant number of local government secretariats in Kogi State. The governor has been extremely supportive. Actually, I was meant to meet with him today because he was in Abuja, but unfortunately, I was at the State House for a number of meetings. Also we're getting the same support from the governor in Cross River, because we've also started laying there. We have very cordial working relationship also with Imo State, the governor and the commissioner there, giving active support to our staff members that are there installing the connectivity equipment. But it doesn't stop there. We've also written to the first set of states where we're launching this program for the governors and the LGAs to provide us a computer room in the secretariat, and that's where we're going to put the computer labs. And the computer lab is where we're going to be able to deploy our digital literacy training program, which we hope to run across the entire country. Without them, we won't be able to achieve most of what we're trying to achieve today. But I think there's an understanding that this is a collaborative project which will benefit them and benefit our people all over the country as well.